I've always been the kind of person who's all in. I don't do things halfway. So when Ethan and I started talking about building a tech startup together, it wasn't just some half-baked idea. It was a shared dream. We were inseparable, like two halves of the same whole. The kind of partnership you read about in stories. The kind where nothing could possibly go wrong. Ethan, this is it. We can make something huge, I said one evening, sitting on the floor of my cramped apartment. The glow of the computer screen casting shadows on our faces. Ethan leaned back in his chair, grinning. I know, man. We've got everything we need. We've got the idea, the skills, and he paused for effect. We've got the drive. I smiled, feeling that old rush of excitement I hadn't felt since we were kids, dreaming about the future. Ethan wasn't just my best friend. He was my partner. We were building something that could change everything together. Every day after work, we'd meet up to talk about it. Ideas flowed between us like they were meant to. One night he said, "What if we made this app, something that could use AI to do what no one else has thought of?" We stayed up for hours brainstorming, coding, dreaming. It was easy, natural. Nothing about it felt forced, and every plan we made felt like it was coming to life. Ethan was always there, always enthusiastic, always pushing me. But lately something was different. I couldn't put my finger on it at first. Ethan was more energetic than usual, almost too energetic. He started talking about the vision of the company more, about how we needed someone to be the face of it, someone people could rally behind. People need a leader, you know? Someone they can look up to, Ethan said one night, his eyes gleaming with an intensity I hadn't seen before. I blinked. What are you saying? You want to be the face of the company? He grinned, shrugging. I just think we need someone who can sell the dream. I can do that. You're the brains behind the operation, but I can be the one who brings it all together. I laughed, trying to dismiss the nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach. Of course, man. You're the perfect choice. But even as I said it, I couldn't shake the unease creeping in. Why was he so eager to be the public face? Wasn't this supposed to be our dream? Yet I didn't confront him. Maybe it was because I didn't want to seem paranoid. Or maybe I was just so caught up in our shared vision that I ignored the growing tension between us. Ethan was my best friend. He wouldn't do anything to mess this up. Still, something about his enthusiasm felt off. His sudden drive to be the face of the company, his insistence that he had the charisma to make it all work, it wasn't like him. He'd always been more in the background, the quiet one supporting me, but I shook it off. We were partners. This was our dream. We were going to make it happen. Together. Let's just make this happen, Ethan, I said, trying to push my doubts aside. We've got everything we need. Yeah, he replied, his voice low, almost too confident. We do, and for a while I believed him. We were building the future together, after all. What could go wrong? It felt like everything was falling into place. The idea we came up with it was genius. A groundbreaking app that used AI to predict user behavior and leveraged cloud technology to make businesses more efficient. I could feel the adrenaline every time I thought about it. This was the one. The idea that would make us billionaires. Ethan, we've got something big here. This app, it's going to change everything, I said, leaning over the laptop, staring at the code I'd been working on for weeks. He grinned. I know, man. We're about to make history. He stood behind me, his voice thick with excitement. Just leave the tech to you, and I'll make sure the investors know we're the next big thing. And that was the deal. I coded while Ethan handled the networking. At first, it was perfect. I was buried in the code, crafting something I knew could revolutionize the market. While Ethan hustled to get us the investors and connections we needed, everything felt right. But then came that day. I was working late, tweaking the algorithms when I decided to take a break. I went down to the coffee machine, and that's when I saw Ethan. He was sitting with a guy I didn't recognize a suit, looking like someone who had just walked out of a Wall Street movie. Ethan was talking to him with a kind of intensity I hadn't seen before. They were sitting at the back corner of the cafe, and I could only catch fragments of their conversation. It's a big money exclusive deal no one else can know. You're going to make a lot of money off this. Shh. I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was just a business deal, right? We needed the funding, and Ethan had always been the one to take the lead on these things. But something about it felt off. I didn't approach them. I wasn't going to be the jealous, paranoid partner. So I turned around and pretended I hadn't seen anything, but I couldn't shake the nagging feeling in my stomach. It was there constantly in the back of my mind. Why did Ethan need a secret meeting with some investor? We had been transparent with everyone so far. Why keep it so private? I tried to focus on the project. The next few weeks passed in a blur of coding, meetings, and late-night brainstorming sessions. We were ready. The prototype was nearly perfect, and Ethan had lined up a couple of investors who seemed interested. I thought everything was falling into place until I saw it. I was scrolling through social media when I saw it. A post from a tech news site. Revolutionary AI app launches. Promises to change the way we do business, and it's already backed by major investors. I froze. There, in the post, was our power idea. With the same algorithms, the same core concept. But it wasn't our company. It wasn't us. It was a different name, a different logo, and a completely different team behind it. I couldn't breathe for a moment. I immediately called Ethan. Hey man, what the hell's going on? My voice shook, but I couldn't help it. Relax, it's nothing. Just some company trying to get in on the same idea, he said, way too casually. We've got our investors lined up. Don't worry about them. I didn't buy it. There was something in his voice that didn't sit right with me. Ethan, this is our idea. This is exactly what we've been working on. I know, man, but you have to trust me. Everything's fine. This will blow over. We're still on track. But I wasn't convinced. Something didn't add up. I couldn't believe it. Ethan had been the one talking to that investor in secret, and now someone else was launching our app. My world felt like it was falling apart. It wasn't just an idea anymore. It was betrayal. I could feel it in my gut, a sickening twist that made my chest tighten. This wasn't just business. This was personal. The next few days were a blur of frustration and disbelief. I tried to focus on fixing the app, but it was hard to concentrate with everything happening around me. I kept thinking about that meeting, about the secrecy, about the deal, and I couldn't ignore the truth anymore. Ethan had stolen our idea. He had gone behind my back, pitched it to investors, and sold it to someone else. My best friend had betrayed me. I had no idea how deep it went, but I wasn't going to let him get away with this. No, this wasn't just business anymore. This was war. It was like a punch to the gut. I was sitting in my apartment, my phone buzzing nonstop with notifications. One of them caught my eye, an article. The headline read, "Tech Startup Breaks Ground with Revolutionary AI Backed by Major Investors." My heart sank as I scrolled through the page. There it was, our app. The one we had built together. Only this time, it wasn't under our name. It wasn't my name. It was Ethan's. I dialed his number immediately. My hands were shaking, but I tried to steady my breath. "Ethan," I said, the word barely escaping through clenched teeth. "What the hell is this?" He answered after a few rings, his voice calm. "Hey man, I'm really busy right now. I don't care how busy you are. Why is our app being launched under your name? Why didn't you tell me?" There was a pause, too long for my liking. "It's not like that, okay? We've got investors. We've got a team. You know this is bigger than us." I could feel my blood boiling. "You stole it. You stole everything we worked on, Ethan. Calm down, all right? This is just business," he said, but his tone was off to defensive, too rehearsed. I wasn't hearing it. My best friend had just crushed everything I believed in. And now he was trying to make it sound like it was all okay. Like he hadn't just stabbed me in the back. "You've already been pitching this to investors behind my back, haven't you? This was my idea, Ethan. Our idea. Look, I didn't mean to hurt you, okay? But this is a huge opportunity. I couldn't pass it up," he said, almost pleading. "You think you didn't hurt me? You're destroying everything we've built," I shouted, feeling the rage bubbling up inside me. "I trusted you. Man, you need to chill. I'm doing what I have to do. I could barely breathe. My mind was spinning. This wasn't just a betrayal of our company, it was a betrayal of our friendship, of everything we had built together. But as the rage settled, something else started to creep in. A determination. I was crushed. Yes. I was angry, yes. But I wasn't going to let this destroy me. I hung up the phone, my fingers numb against the screen. The tears I hadn't let myself shed before now threatened to fall, but I refused to let them. No, this wasn't the end. It couldn't be. I spent the next few days in a haze of sleepless nights, my mind racing with ideas. It hurt to think about what Ethan had done, but I couldn't afford to dwell on it. If I was going to survive this, I had to rebuild. I threw myself into it. I spent every waking moment coding, pulling all-nighters, just to get something, anything, new off the ground. I didn't have the resources, the connections, or even the money that Ethan had now. But what I did have was my mind, my skills, and a burning desire to prove him wrong. "You're not getting away with this, Ethan," I muttered to myself, eyes glued to the screen as I typed furiously. I was alone now. No safety net, no backup. It was just me and my code. I didn't care how long it took. I didn't care how many times I'd crash and burn. I was going to build something better. One night around 3 a.m., I heard a knock on my door. Groggy, exhausted, I almost didn't answer it. But then I recognized the voice. "Hey man, it's Derek." I opened the door, rubbing my eyes. Derek was a former colleague, someone who'd worked with me on a smaller project before all of this started. "I saw what happened, man," Derek said, stepping in. "I know what Ethan did to you. And I know you're probably feeling like everything's falling apart. But you're not alone in this." I didn't want to talk about it, but Derek had always been a good friend. "What can I even do now, Derek?" I asked, frustration leaking out of my voice. He took everything. The idea, the investors, everything. Derek put a hand on my shoulder. "You're not beaten, man. You're just getting started. You've got the skills. And I know some people who might be able to help you." The offer was tempting. But deep down, I knew I had to do this on my own. I couldn't just ride the coattails of anyone else. "Thanks, Derek," I said, giving him a tight smile. "But I'll handle it from here." He nodded as if he understood. "All right, but if you change your mind, you know where to find me." I closed the door behind him, the weight of what I had to do settling back in. I had no idea how long it would take to rebuild, to get back to where I was. But I wasn't about to let Ethan let anyone define my future. This wasn't over. It was just the beginning. I couldn't remember the last time I'd had a full night's sleep. I had my eyes set on one thing, proving Ethan wrong. The new app I was working on was slowly taking shape, and with each line of code, it felt like I was peeling back layers of the old me. The naive one who trusted to isolate. Now, I was a different person, more driven, more focused and hell-bent on making sure I was the one who came out on top. My phone buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. I grabbed it, seeing an email from an investor I'd met through Derek. He was interested. "Subject, investment opportunity I'm in," it read. I could hardly believe it. I'd been chasing this for weeks, just one investor who believed in me and my vision. And now, I had it. I was on a call with him within the hour. "Mr. Reynolds," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I appreciate you taking the time to talk." "No problem." "I've been watching your progress, and I like what I see," he said. "Your app shows a lot of potential. We'd be interested in coming on board." I almost couldn't breathe. This is exactly what I need. "Thank you. I'll make sure you're part of something big." We ironed out the details, and just like that, I had the backing I needed. It wasn't much, but it was enough to push me to the next level. I could feel the weight of everything Ethan had stolen from me slipping away with every step I took forward. But nothing was easy. I was learning the business world on the fly, trying to keep up with meetings, investors, and growing the app. I'd been out of my depth before, but this was different. I was determined to get it right, no matter how many sleepless nights it took. A few weeks later, I sat across from Derek at a small cafe, sipping on my coffee, while he glanced at the financial projections I'd brought with me. "Man, you're killing it," Derek said, shaking his head. "This app is going to be huge. You've got the backing, the tech, everything you need." "Yeah, but it's not enough," I muttered, looking out the window. Ethan's success still lingered in my mind. His company had skyrocketed, attracting major investors and press, and it pissed me off. "I don't get it," Derek continued. "Why the hell do you care what Ethan does now? You've got your own thing going. Why waste your energy on him?" I leaned forward, my eyes narrowing. "Because he needs to know. I'm going to show him that I can do this. I'm going to build something bigger, better. He thinks he's got it all figured out, but I'm going to leave him in the dust." Derek paused, a thoughtful look on his face. "Just make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Don't let him keep controlling your life, man." I didn't say anything at first. He was right. But it didn't matter. Ethan had stolen my dream, and now I was going to take it back. As the weeks passed, I dove deeper into the business. The more I learned, the sharper I became, more calculating, more ruthless. Ethan's betrayal had cracked something in me, something that was driving me to be better, faster, smarter. But it wasn't just about making a great product anymore. It was about winning. One afternoon, I ran into a former colleague at a tech conference. "Hey man, good to see you," he said, clapping me on the back. "I heard about the app. Looks like you're making waves." "Yeah, it's going well," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Listen, I've got a friend who might be able to connect you with some serious investors," he continued. "You've got something special here. I know a few people who could really help." I felt the tension in my chest ease a little. Every connection, every opportunity, felt like a step closer to crushing Ethan's empire. "Thanks, I appreciate that," I said, my mind already racing with possibilities. The more I pushed forward, the more I realized how much I had changed. I wasn't the guy who wanted to just build a company anymore. I wasn't the naive entrepreneur who trusted blindly. I had learned how to play the game, and I was playing it better than anyone. Ethan might have stolen my idea, but I wasn't about to let him have the last laugh. I was building my own empire now, and when I was on top, he'd know exactly who built it. As I walked away from the conference, a smile crept across my face. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving, and I was getting closer to showing Ethan that I was capable of far more than he ever thought possible. I could feel it in my bones the moment when everything changed. My app launched, and it was like the floodgates opened. Investors were knocking on my door, eager to get in on the ground floor. The tech world was buzzing about me, about my vision. For the first time in my life, I was the one they wanted to talk to. I was the one in the spotlight. "Man, you're on fire," Derek said, leaning back in his chair as he glanced at the numbers on his laptop. "You've got investors calling, people lining up. This is it. You're making it." I couldn't help but smile, but it was hollow. "Yeah, but it doesn't feel like enough." "Not yet." He raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "You've got everything you need." I shook my head, the weight of the truth pressing on me. "It's not about the money anymore, Derek. It's about proving I'm better. I'm not just going to beat Ethan at his own game, I'm going to bury him." Derek was quiet for a moment, eyes narrowing in thought. "You sure you want to do that? You've already won. You've got the app. You've got the backing. What else do you need?" I didn't answer. The truth was, I didn't know. I'd gotten everything I thought I wanted, but there was this emptiness I couldn't shake. I was climbing, sure, but the higher I got, the more I realized the cost of my success. I lost touch with friends. Relationships? Non-existent. All I did was work, and work some more. I'd sit in meetings for hours, dodging questions about my personal life, avoiding everything that didn't have to do with building the empire I'd envisioned. One night, I was at a tech conference, surrounded by the very people who'd once ignored me. They were all coming to me now, asking questions, praising my app. I was finally someone, and that's when I saw him. Ethan, he was standing by the drinks table, laughing too loudly, his face plastered with that smug grin I'd come to hate. But as soon as our eyes met, the smile faltered. For a brief second, I saw something else, a flicker of regret. A realization that maybe everything he thought he'd won wasn't so great after all. I walked over, my steps deliberate. "Ethan," I said, my voice steady, though my heart was pounding. "Funny seeing you here." He straightened up when I approached, but his expression didn't change. "Yeah, well, it's a small world," he replied, a little too casually. "I didn't know you were speaking tonight." I let a smile tug at the corner of my mouth. "Oh, I've got a lot going on. People are starting to take notice." I could hear the edge in my voice, but I couldn't stop it. He nodded, but there was something in his eyes now, unease I hadn't expected. He was no longer the confident, cocky guy who'd betrayed me so icily. Instead, he seemed almost lost. "Well," he said, scratching the back of his neck, "I'm happy for you, really. You've done well for yourself." He said it like he was trying to convince himself more than me. I tilted my head. "Thanks. That's rich coming from you, though. I remember when you told me I'd never make it without you." His eyes flashed, but he quickly masked it with that fake smile. "People change, We all grow. You should be proud of yourself." Pride, it was such a hollow word. I didn't feel proud, not really. I was winning, yes, but at what cost? I leaned in a little closer, letting my voice drop lower. "I don't think I'd be standing here if you hadn't stolen my idea. I think we both know that." A moment he didn't respond. He just stood there, staring at me, and I could see it, the regret, the guilt creeping into his eyes. But it was gone before I could fully grasp it. "You really think I stole from you?" he asked, his voice tight. "Yeah," I said, staring him down. "And I think you've been running from it ever since." Ethan opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He just blinked, like he was trying to figure out how to salvage his pride. How to say something that would make me believe he wasn't a complete fraud. I didn't give him the chance. "I'm not going to leave. There was a part of me that hoped you'd fail. But here's the thing, Ethan. I've already won. And you can keep pretending that your company is all you ever wanted, but deep down, you know what you lost." His face hardened. "You don't know anything about me, man? Nothing?" I smirked. "No, but I know that you're not happy. You're not content with what you've got, and that's your punishment." I turned and walked away, feeling a mix of satisfaction and emptiness. I had finally said it. Finally told him everything I'd been holding back. But as I stepped into the crowd, I realized something. I'd won the battle. But the victory felt strangely hollow. The world was mine now. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was more broken than ever. Asterisk. It's strange how life works sometimes. My company was soaring, investors still lining up, and the world was beginning to see what I'd built. But there in the back of my mind was Ethan. Always there. His betrayal still echoing in my thoughts. It was hard to escape it, even now that I was winning. I was in my office one morning when the first news hit. "Have you seen this?" Derek asked, sliding a tablet across the desk. I glanced at the headline. "Tech startup CEO under investigation for embezzlement, authorities begin probe into financial mismanagement." The name of the company at the top made my stomach twist. Ethan's company. "Damn, that's not good," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral, though a part of me couldn't help but feel a bit of satisfaction. "Not good?" Derek laughed. "This is huge. They're saying the numbers don't add up. Investors are freaking out. It's a mess." I leaned back in my chair, letting it sink in. Ethan was facing the kind of downfall I hadn't even imagined. All those investors who'd rushed to him, all the praise he'd gotten for being the golden boy, now it was all crumbling. My phone buzzed with another message. This time from a friend in the industry. "He's toast. Looks like it's all coming apart." Stared at the screen, the words sinking in. Ethan's world, the one he'd built off my idea, was falling apart right in front of me. I wanted to feel victorious, to finally have the revenge I thought I deserved. But it didn't feel like that. The day went by in a blur of meetings and decisions. As the news of Ethan's scandal spread, my own success felt tainted. It was hard to focus. Every time I thought about my rise, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was all somehow tied to him. A week later, I ran into someone who had been close to Ethan, a former employee who had worked alongside him before everything went south. She was standing near the coffee machine at a tech networking event, looking uncomfortable as she fumbled with her drink. "Hey, Sarah," I said, walking up to her. I heard about what happened. She gave me a tight smile. Yeah, it's a mess. I didn't think things were going to go that far. I raised an eyebrow. You didn't think he was the type too? You know, steal from investors? Sarah looked around, then lowered her voice. Honestly, no, but the pressure got to him. I think he started cutting corners to make everything look perfect. You know how he was always about the show? Always about being the next big thing? I nodded. He got greedy. It caught up to him. She shifted uncomfortably. Look, I'm not saying it was right, but it's just hard to see someone you once believed in fall apart like that. Her words hit me harder than I expected. As much as I wanted to be satisfied by Ethan's downfall, hearing about the cracks in his facade made me feel something I hadn't anticipated. Guilt. I'd spent so long focusing on proving I was better, on showing everyone that I could rise from the ashes of his betrayal. But now, with everything that had happened, I started to wonder if my success was really my own. Had I built this empire because I was talented, or was it just a product of my need to outdo him? I felt a tug in my chest, a gnawing doubt that I couldn't shake. I was winning. I had everything I thought I wanted, but was it enough? Was it worth it? I tried to push the thoughts away, but they lingered. Even now, as I looked at the rise of my own company, I couldn't ignore the fact that Ethan's downfall had been part of the equation, and that didn't sit well with me. A few days later, I saw the full extent of Ethan's troubles. The media was relentless, the scandals growing worse by the minute. He had gone from the golden boy of the tech world to the cautionary tale of greed and failure. I was at a meeting with one of my investors when I saw Ethan's face on the screen of my phone. It was a photo taken months ago. He looked confident, maybe even arrogant, but now that confidence was gone. I couldn't help it. I felt a pang of something inside me. Are you okay? Derek asked, noticing my distraction. I stared at the image for a moment longer before sliding the phone into my pocket. Yeah, just thinking about Ethan. Derek asked softly. I didn't answer right away. The truth was, I wasn't sure. I thought I should feel satisfied. He had done something unforgivable, and now karma had caught up to him. But as I watched his empire crumble, I couldn't help but wonder if I had lost something along the way too. I had built this all for revenge, but now that I had it, I wasn't sure it was enough. I still didn't have all the answers. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't ignore one thing. Ethan might have fallen. I had no idea where my own path was leading. I wasn't expecting it. I don't know what I thought would happen. Maybe I assumed Ethan would just fade into the background, his company falling apart with him. But there he was, standing in front of me, looking like a ghost of the man I once called my best friend. Ethan said, my voice cold, though my insides were anything but. What are you doing here? He looked different, hollow, tired, his clothes ill-fitting, his posture slumped. The cocky arrogance he used to wear like armor was gone. He seemed smaller, somehow broken. I need to talk to you, he said, his voice shaky. Please, just hear me out. He crossed my arms, trying to keep my emotions in check. Talk. After everything you've done. You think you can just show up and... I know I messed up. I need to tell you something. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I owe you the truth. He took a shaky breath. I stole the idea. I was selfish. I was blinded by my own pride and greed. I thought I could do it better on my own. But I lost everything. And now I don't have anything left. I stared at him, struggling to process the words. He had always been the one who knew how to talk, to twist things to his advantage. But this was different. The man who had once been full of life and ambition was now a shell, begging for something I wasn't sure I could give him. Is that what this is about? I said, my voice barely above a whisper. You want me to feel sorry for you? You want forgiveness? You think it's that easy? I don't know what I expect, he admitted, his eyes downcast. I don't even know if I deserve your forgiveness, but I've lost everything, man. The company, my reputation, it's all falling apart. And I'm sitting here thinking about the one thing I can't fix. Do you the one person who mattered. His words hit harder than I expected. For a moment, I was back in that place, the place where we were partners, where we dreamed together. It was hard not to remember the good times, to not see the person I had trusted with my whole life. But now, all of that felt like a lifetime ago. I didn't want to hurt you, Ethan continued, his voice breaking. I thought I was making the right call, that I could take the idea and make it mine. But it wasn't mine to take. It was ours. And now I realize that was the biggest mistake of my life. I wanted to hate him. I wanted to be angry, to scream at him for everything he had taken from me. For the sleepless nights, the betrayal, the wreckage he'd left in his wake. But instead, I felt something else. Something I couldn't name. You don't get it, do you? I said, my voice barely steady. You didn't just steal an idea, Ethan. You took everything, my trust, my future. You walked away with my dreams, and you left me picking up the pieces. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so damn sorry, he said, his eyes pleading now, his hands shaking. I don't expect you to believe me, or to let me off the hook. But I need you to understand that I was wrong. I'm not the person I was. I've lost everything because of it, and I can't keep living with that. I stood there, frozen, torn between the two conflicting forces inside me. A part of me wanted to push him away, to tell him he was too late, that the damage was done, that his apology was meaningless after everything he had done. But another part of me, maybe the part that used to call him my best friend, wanted to reach out and forgive him. Wanted to believe that people could change, that even someone as broken as Ethan could find redemption. But was it my job to fix him? Was it my responsibility to forgive him after everything he had done? I'd spent so long focusing on revenge that the thought of forgiveness felt foreign, like it didn't belong in this story. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said finally, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. You took my trust, my future, and you destroyed it all for your own gain. I don't think that's something I can just let go of. Ethan's face fell. I understand. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the rage. I didn't feel the need to punish him. But that didn't change the fact that the man standing before me was no longer the friend I once knew. I can't fix this. Ethan, I can't fix you, I said quietly, shaking my head. And I don't think I can fix me either. I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there. The weight of the decision settled on me like a ton of bricks. I didn't know if I had made the right choice, but I did know one thing. I wasn't going to let him destroy me anymore. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Asterisk, I hadn't expected it to feel like this. Walking away from Ethan, I mean. For months, I had lived in the shadow of what he'd done to me. Driven by the need to show him I could build something better, something bigger. But now, as I stepped away from him, left him standing there. Broken and apologetic, I realized that what I was really leaving behind wasn't just the past. It was the version of me who couldn't move on. I kept my head down, focused on the work. The app was thriving. My company was growing. Investors were happy, and for the first time in a long time, I was starting to feel fulfilled. Hey, you still with me? Derek's voice broke me from my thoughts. I looked up from the tablet, seeing him standing there with a smile on his face. Yeah, I said, leaning back in my chair. Just thinking. He raised an eyebrow. About Ethan. I hesitated. Yeah, but not in the way I used to. Good, he said, nodding. I mean, it's about time you moved on, right? You've got your own empire now. You don't need him to make your mark. Let the words sit for a moment. Derek was right. I had spent too long looking back at Ethan, at the betrayal, at everything he'd taken from me. But now, I was looking ahead. I wasn't just focused on outdoing him anymore. I was building something that was mine, something I could be proud of. Honestly. I think I'm finally starting to understand that, I said, my voice quieter now. It's not about him. It never was. Exactly, Derek grinned. You're not some pawn in his game anymore. You're the king of your own. I chuckled at that. It felt strange, still. The old me would have laughed it off or dismissed it, but now, it was the truth. Later that day, I was sitting in my office, looking at the projections for the next quarter when I got an email from a former investor. "I've been watching your progress and I want to offer another round of funding. You're really onto something here." I smiled, not because it was more money though, that was always nice, but because it felt like validation. Not just from the outside world, but from myself. I had done this. I had built something from nothing, without anyone's help. Without relying on anyone but myself, I sat back, taking a deep breath. For the first time in a long time, I felt calm. I thought about Ethan, wondered what he was doing. I imagined him trying to pick up the pieces of his life, trying to rebuild from the mess he'd made. The thought used to give me a sense of satisfaction, a feeling of revenge. Now it just felt empty. Double quotes, "Hey, you good?" Derek's voice again. I looked up and nodded. "Yeah, just thinking about everything. You've come a long way, man," he said, leaning against the doorframe. "You've built something real. I don't think you need to look back anymore." I smiled. "I don't think I do." The road ahead was still long, but it was mine to walk now. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone, not to Ethan or anyone else. The only person I needed to prove something to was myself. As I sat there, I reflected on how far I had come. The anger, the bitterness, the obsession with revenge, it had all faded. What was left was a version of me I could finally respect, the one who didn't need to be defined by what others had taken, but by what he could create on his own terms. My company was thriving. I was thriving, and I didn't need Ethan to tell me that. I stood up, looking out the window. The city stretched out before me, full of possibilities. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of what was next. I wasn't running from the past anymore. I was ready, and this time it was all for me.